Hi everybody, Jo here. So you know what that means. Time to grab a brew, grab yourself a cheeky treat, maybe a biscuit, and let's do a catch up and let's have a bit of crafty play. Now today we're going to have a play with a couple of new stamps from Lavinia, the Lilium stamps, absolutely beautiful. There's a single one and a lovely set, and we're going to be using PanPastels. Now I've got two different designs here to show you. I'm going to be making the blue one just because I want to create this ombre effect with the PanPastels. But also I just thought I'd create this one just to show you, same design, just different colourways. Now obviously those of you that follow me know I have a thing about orange. Don't know why, we all have a colour that we go to, don't we? Well, mine's orange, but I love to blend yellow, orange and red. It's just one of those lovely things to do. So that just shows you another colourway. I mean, often when I'm creating a design, I love to just make a design in two different colourways. I mean, almost we've got a warm colour palette and a cooler colour palette. And it just shows you the difference, doesn't it? So let's get started. I'm just going to put these to one side, and then obviously one side where I can keep an eye on them, because you know what I'm like. I'm liable to go off tangent and just do my own thing like I do. So I'm going to start with a piece of card. Now I've just gone for a 5x7 piece of card here, just because this is the type of size I'd quite like to work with. No other reason than that. I mean, you just decide if it's for a specific card blank size, just cut your card down according. Remember, you want that black matte layer. So what we're going to do first is we're going to start with, we've got a lovely new verse here. Now, a little tip, I always put an arrow on the back of my verses, just because I am liable to stamp them upside down. I've got to be honest. You know what I'm like. I have all these quirks. And what we're going to do before we start, we're going to stamp with our Versamark, our sticky ink pad. And that's before we get to our PanPastels. And I'm just going to stamp the verse down one side. Now, obviously, because I'm using the Versamark, it's not going to be easy to see. I've tried to get quite a clean Versamark, she says. You know what they're like. How many of you do they end up black? I know they work the same, but it messes with my head. I'll never forget the first time I made the mistake of taking a brand new Versamark ink pad to a class, and I passed it round to let everybody use. Well, not everybody clean the stamps before they used it, and it came back black. Now my face was a picture. Right, so I'm not going to specifically match it up perfectly because it's not easy to see. Obviously, you just get that watermark effect. So this is just going to be in part of the background. Let me just put it in the light to see if I've got a bit of a clue where it is. And we'll just do another one there. And we'll just put one across the bottom. The reason we're doing this is the PanPastel, when we put it over the top, will stick to the Versamark, and it just gives a lovely, lovely effect. If I bring the finished one back in to show you, and this is what we get, look. So it's just a nice way of doing a background, but it's remembering to do your stamping first. So next we're going to bring our PanPastels out. Now, I'm going to create an ombre here. And one thing to point out with PanPastels is they have the name on the back. So this is a phthalo blue. Now, I think that's how I pronounce it. Obviously, I have no qualifications in art whatsoever. So if it isn't, well, I'm afraid we'll just call it my accent. Because if I've pronounced it wrong, whoops. So when we're creating an ombre, the thing to realise with PanPastels is you have the actual colour, which is the phthalo blue. Then we have what's called a phthalo blue tint. Now, tint just means it's the phthalo blue but with white added, so that gives a tint. And then we've got a phthalo blue shade, which means it's the phthalo blue but black's been added. So when we're looking at our three colours for the ombre, we've got our main colour and we've got it with white and with black. So that's our tint and our shade. So if ever you're asked, your tint is just where you've got white added, and the same applies to paint, and the shade is where we've got black added. So that way I know I've got my three colours. Now I'm going to start with my lighter, my tint. I'm Just going to turn it round. I want to work from the top, and I've just got, and these are very old sponges, I have to say, and I just like to do one swipe across, or maybe do another. Okay, two. I fibbed, 2 swipes across, and then I'm just going to apply it across the whole card. Now I want it quite light at the top. I don't want to over apply too much, because obviously with these being a chalk pastel, you do get quite a bit of residue. So we'll call it a day there, and I like that light at the top. You see how that's coming through? It's so nice. And then I'm going to come for my main colour. I've got a smaller sponge for this again. This I'm just going to have one swipe. And what I want to do is start further down. And then I'm going right across, and I'm coming into the lighter, and I'm almost lifting my hand off a little. And then I'm going to come back with that sponge and just see if I can just blend that out a little. Just to mix that. It's nice to do some blending. And again, I keep the sponge pretty flat. That's nice. It's darker here, but I'm going to come even darker. So let's come now with our darkest of colours. And again, I'm going to start at the bottom where I want it very dark, and then just work my way and see if we can blend that colour there. Just going to come with a little bit more at the bottom, I think, just to darken it up a little bit down the sides. And again, I'm keeping that sponge pretty flat. Now, I must admit, I like that. I hope that shows up. Again, that's just such a lovely, lovely background. Now, for me, obviously, as you can see, you do get quite a lot of the chalk residue. So I'm just going to mop this up. And these are biodegradable baby wipes, so I wouldn't use anything that was bad for the environment. And my disgusting Inky Binky. I must get my new Inky Binky, or possibly wash this one. Now, what I tend to do is I've just got a cotton wipe here, and I'm just going to lightly go over the top. I just find that if I do that, it almost takes off the excess without taking too much of the colour. And it just makes it easier for me when I'm working with it. Like I say, it's not taken away the design, but I'm happier working with that. So I'm going to put my pan pastels to one side, and then we can get on with some stamping. Just wipe my mat again. Now we're going to bring in the lovely, lovely stamps we've got. Just wiping my hands. You know what I'm like. I just don't want to get finger marks everywhere. So I'm just going to get myself some copier paper and a magazine. You know me, this is just the way I stamp. Again, another one of those little quirks. And we're going to stamp the first of this lovely Lilium. And again, I just have to have mine on the side. And I'm trying my best not to rest. I have this habit where with my block, I rest it on my finished piece. And if I'm not careful, if I've got ink on there, it transfers onto my work. So I'm trying to be good and not do that. I'm going to ink up this stamp. Absolutely beautiful stamp this, and so much detail. Now, again, you know me, I do overstamp, so I just want to clean these edges. Right, and I think we'll have this one just coming off the page there. So again, it's on my flexible block, so I can just flex. Just check I'm in shot and you can see. So again, I'm using the black. You could, if you want, use the blue if you wanted to keep all your tone on tone. Turn it round. Look at the detail. Can you see? Absolutely beautiful. So we've got another one here, and I'm thinking that we'll just put that there. And it's got lovely open space, this, but a slight pattern. Right, and once again we've done a bit of overstamping. Right, so let's... Again, if I need to, I can just flex my block. I have to say, the way I feel these days, these blocks are definitely more flexible than I am. I'll give that ink a minute to soak in, because obviously it's got to soak in through the pan pastel. Yeah. So lovely. And then there is a little single one. So just for balance, we're just going to put a little bit, she says. Just clean this off. And I just want to pop this one here, just for nice balance. And then just a little bit at the top, just peeping in. You know, it's always nice to have that design almost popping off the edge of the card. So maybe just, I mean, we could have it come, no, I don't like it coming down. Let's stick with what we did. Just the edge of it there. Beautiful. Now you could, I've got to be honest, you could just leave it like that, couldn't you? We've got a couple of little butterflies to add, and this is from, I find this such a lovely set. It's 4 butterflies, and again, they're all silhouette, and they're just so useful for things like this where I need something, but I don't know what. Obviously, I like the space we've got, but I just need a little something in that background. So let's go for, let's have a butterfly there. Again, it's a silhouette. So let's give it a chance just to soak in. Oh, that stamped well. Should we have another? Now, where my verse didn't quite... I mean, again, it's only a background, so it doesn't, you know... I think we're very hard on ourselves. So, obviously, it didn't stamp perfectly there, but I think that's a perfect space for my butterfly. And if anybody asks, I've left that space for my butterfly. Now, you won't tell them, will you? We'll pretend it's our secret. That's part of the design. We purposely left that. Now, do I put another one there? Because I'm not sure, let's get our, what do we think? Oh, that actually does balance it quite well, doesn't it? What about the smaller one? Yes, it's in the distance. Let's go for the smaller one. Give a bit of perspective. So, ink that one up, and let's pop that up there. Again, just give it a minute. Let that ink soak into the pan pastel and obviously the Versamark. Yeah. It's quite nice actually. If you look, you can see the Versamark, so it's still got the lettering through it. So we'll pop that to one side. Now, if I just get my black, just to show you, because obviously it frames it. Let's get rid of the copy of paper. Look at that. So as I say, you could leave it like this, but I just want to show you how to take it a little bit further should you wish. And one of the things I like to do is, because our pan pastels, chalk pan pastels, I find to add colour, these chalk pencils work really well. And all I'm going to do, and I won't take forever. Now, when I'm doing this at home, obviously I spend longer, but you don't, and excuse me because I know it sounds a bit almost scratchy. Now, what I tend to do is I've gone for a darker blue and then a lighter blue, just to add some colour into these. Lovely, just to almost highlight it. And we want a bit of depth. So where I've got this dark blue, and I just use my finger to smudge it. You can get lovely little, these are actually Pergamano pen nibs, and you can just use them if you want. I mean, I must admit, I just use my finger. Let's add a little bit more blue in there. And it's just to give a bit of colour, a bit of depth. And if you want, I've taken a black out just to show you. We can add a little bit more black as well where we've got the shade. So let's just add a little bit more to this one. Now we're going in a bit more with the full colour there. And then where it's deepest at the base, that's where you want your darker colour. And if I show you with the nib look, just blend it in. As I say, you would take your time more. But it looks nice if it's darker there. It really, and as you're playing around and add the depth, you'll see how it really builds up. And like I say, for me, this is the bit where you just lose time. You just find yourself spending time adding colour. And then we'll go for the deeper one right at the base. And again, where you've got any shadow. And then let's just blend that. And as I say, these chalk pencils work so well on top of the pan pastel. And it just adds that more depth. You see how these three flowers look so much. Just gives them, like I say, a bit more depth and interest. And I'm very quickly going to, because I'm well aware that you don't. Although if you've got a nice brew, you're probably quite happy just having your coffee, and it's quite nice watching somebody else colouring. I always think when we're doing it ourselves, we're conscious of how long it's taking, but it is quite relaxing watching other people colour. And it's nice to actually just sit and relax. I think we all almost rush things too much. And what I tend to do is not make all the flowers exactly the same, you know, with the same amount of colour. I'll have this one quite blue, because obviously in nature, not all flowers are exactly the same pattern, are they? The same colour, even if they're on the same bunch. Now this one just needs a little bit more. I know I said I wasn't going to spend ages colouring, but I'm sorry, it just needed, I couldn't leave it without the... So I've gone for my 3 lots of blue here with my colours. On this other sample, obviously I've added yellow, orange, and then a deep red. And often with red, you can add a little bit of brown. And that I spent a little bit longer. But you can see how we've definitely built up depth there. Now, we do want some highlights. And the best way to get highlights is one of these. Fabulous tool, a battery operated, we just call it a whizzy eraser. And now it's a rubber. Now the beauty with pan pastels is when you rub, they can rub them out. So where I want to add some highlights, if I bring... Now I'm sorry, it may sound a little bit like at the dentist. So, and obviously the darker the colour of the pan pastel that you're rubbing out, you will get more of an effect. Now, just to get the bits of the rubber off, I'm just going to use this. You could use a brush, but with me, all my brushes end up with glitter on. So I'm using a cotton pad. So if I bring that a bit closer, hopefully, can you see here where we've got the highlight? And I just think it's such an effective way to create highlight. But I've got to be honest, it's good fun too. And as we know, I'm a bit of a kid. But I do think anything that you enjoy that brings a smile to your face, especially when you're crafting. Now, if we wanted, we could add a little bit of highlight to the top of the leaves. If we wanted, we could add some near the butterflies. But what you've got to watch is that it doesn't run away with itself. It's quite, you almost have to hold it quite tight. I'm just going to put a little bit of a hint near these. Right. Let's just brush all those bits off. Now that didn't take long, did it? And I think we've got such a lovely, lovely effect. Little finishing trick again, and I'm just looking for my white pen, which I should have had out ready, shouldn't I? So we just add some little highlights to our butterflies. And then I want some Posca splats. Now you could add more if you wanted more highlight, especially where you've rubbed the pan pastel off. Obviously you've taken it back to the card. So you could add more pen there, you could add more highlights if you wanted to build the two together. And then last of all, we're going to add some Posca splats. Now again, just need to shake. So anything, remember, with a ball bearing, you need to shake it. Now, if you don't like to do this, you could leave that as it is. But I'm just going to add a few random... Well, no pizzas. That's enough, missus. Stop there. Let's just clean that one up, otherwise it'll end up on the back of my work. Must admit, how often on the back of your work? I mean, look at that. Got some nice pan pastel there. So I'll bring some card in. There we go. And that's your finished piece. Now, I've got to be honest, I didn't feel as though that took us very long at all, did it? Maybe 20 minutes? And that's with me waffling. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm going to bring in the finished ones. So there's the blue. So really, very similar, isn't it? Such pretty new stamps. And I'll pop the orange one over that so you can see the difference with the orange one. Thank you for joining me today. Any questions, just add them to the comments. I'm more than happy to answer. You know me, I might not get back to you straight away, but I promise I will get back to you at some point. So thanks for spending time with me. You take care. Enjoy the rest of your day, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Okay, much love and hugs. Bye for now.